Ever since the beginning of this offseason, there has been a ton of talk whether Spencer Rattler will go to the NFL draft or stay another year at South Carolina. In case if you've been living under a rock, Spencer Rattler has seemed to have revived his career at South Carolina, although earlier in the year, it didn't look like this. In fact, earlier in the year, he struggled, but as of the last few games, he has looked completely different and looked more like that five-star quarterback he was coming off high school, and he looked like his first year starting in Oklahoma. However, I still do not think Spencer Rattler should go to the NFL draft. But before I state why, first of all, I've got to talk about Spencer Rattler's story. Spencer Rattler, coming out of Pinnacle High School, was the number 1 rated dual-threat quarterback in the country in the class of 2019, along with being rated the number 13th best player in 2019, and was the number 1 player coming out of the state of Arizona. He was a 5-star and decided to take his talents to Lincoln Riley in Oklahoma. Year 1, Rattler would sit behind Jalen Hurts, but would then start in 2020, and at first would struggle, but would do tremendously and would lead his team to a 10-2 season with a major win in the Big 12 championship, along with the 55-13 win over Florida in the Sugar Bowl. Rattler would finish the year with 3,031 yards, 28 passing touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and 6 rushing touchdowns. Going into 2022, Rattler was seen as a Heisman candidate and a first-round draft pick. Unfortunately, that did not happen. Rattler would struggle in 2022 and would eventually get benched in favor of Caleb Williams. Rattler would finish the year with over 1,000 passing yards, 11 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and 3 rushing touchdowns. A major downgrade for what he had the year before. Rattler saw the writing on the wall and decided that he would enter the transfer portal to find a new home. Rattler would decide to ultimately transfer to South Carolina and reunite with one of his old coaches, Shane Beamer. Beamer had previously been the tight ends coach and assistant head coach at Oklahoma, but left for the South Carolina head coaching job after the 2020 season. Rattler was named the starter almost immediately when he got to Columbia. He would start week 1 against Georgia State, where he would actually struggle, throwing 1 touchdown and 2 picks. Then the following week against Arkansas on the road, he would throw for 300 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. However, Rattler would then have his worst game the following week against Georgia, as he would throw for 118 yards, with 2 interceptions and no touchdowns. He didn't really do much against Charlotte as they ran the ball most of the game, only throwing for 171 yards with no touchdowns and no interceptions, but then the following week actually had his best game of the season at that point, throwing for 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions, and 1 rushing touchdown against South Carolina State. Plus, the 2 interceptions he threw really were not his fault, as the receiver dropped them both times. However, Rattler would continue to struggle throughout the season, and he had only thrown for 5 touchdowns with 9 interceptions. However, everything finally changed against Vanderbilt, where he threw for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. And he didn't stop there, as 2 weeks later against number 5 Tennessee, Rattler threw for over 400 yards with 6 touchdowns and no interceptions, which was the best performance by a South Carolina quarterback ever. Rattler would lead his team to a 63-38 blowout win over the Vols. And then the following week, Rattler and the Gamecocks would make noise again as they would go on the road and upset number 8 Clemson. Rattler would throw for 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions with 300 yards and 1 rushing touchdown. And then Rattler actually played pretty well against Notre Dame in the Gator Bowl, throwing for 246 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Rattler would throw for over 3,000 yards, 18 passing touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and would have 3 rushing touchdowns. Rattler overall finished the year out strong and looked like a completely different quarterback than the first half of the season. However, I still don't think he should go to the NFL. First of all, like I said, he only played great in the second half of the season. He should come back for another year and put up those stats again. He has a lot of potential and could do a lot of big things for South Carolina and his football career. As of right now, the highest he would be a 3rd-round draft pick. Meanwhile, next year, if he keeps up how he finished the season off, he could go as high as a 1st-round draft pick. Also, Rattler has made over millions of dollars through his NIL deal at Carolina. If Spencer Rattler came back another year, not only would he be able to make more from his NIL deals, but he would be able to boost up his draft stock a lot higher. Rattler would also have more time to develop as a quarterback and would be more ready for the NFL next year in the NFL draft. Many of the younger quarterbacks who could start for South Carolina in the future can also sit behind Rattler and learn. This would be a good time for them to learn all the new plays and offense by South Carolina's new offensive coordinator. South Carolina should also have a better offense than they did last year, which would work out really well for Rattler. But these are just some of the reasons why I think Spencer Rattler should stay at South Carolina for another year. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. I'll see you guys soon.